everybody. Welcome to EBRU News live coverage of the U.S. midterm elections. America Votes 2010. I'm Logan Crawford.
And I'm Jennifer Rainville. Over the next 4 hours, we'll be covering the battle for control of Capitol Hill. We've also got our eye on key gubernatorial races and state ballot referendums.
It has been a long, grueling, and intense campaign season. Now all that remains is for voters to cast the last of their ballots, and we will wait for the results.
We're joined tonight by the rest of the EBRU News election team. Kyle Schmoyer is in St. David's, Pennsylvania, where Democratic Congressman Joe Sestak is waiting to see if voters will send him back to Washington. And our very own Carrie Ederer is over in Results Central to break down all of the poll results. Carrie, how are the races shaping up so far?
Jennifer and Logan, some polls have already closed, and tonight we'll have live updates on all of the tight races across the U.S. This really comes down to a numbers game. In the House, Republicans need to pick up 39 seats to reach that 218 it takes to become the majority. In the Senate, Republicans need a net gain of 10 seats to reach the magic number of 51. Voters will also decide governor's races in 37 states. We're starting to get some numbers in, and tonight we'll bring you live updates on the results. Over to you.
Thanks, Carrie. We'll no doubt be checking in with you as the night unfolds. Looking forward to hearing those results. Let's go now to Pennsylvania and check in with Kyle Schmoyer. Kyle, what's the mood down in St. David's?
Me. Hello, level check, Kyle. 10-9-8-7-6-5-4-3-2-1. If anyone's hearing me, I do not hear the anchors.
And President Barack Obama says his name is not on the ballot, but he acknowledges that his agenda is health care, immigration reform, cap and trade, and Wall Street regulation. So many are viewing these midterm elections as a referendum on President Barack Obama. And with the president's right-hand man, Senate Majority Leader Harry Reid, in the political fight of his life, some argue Reid's perilous position in the polls is a good indicator that the voters plan on saying to the president, no, you can't. A new Rasmussen report finds that 52% of likely voters believe this election is more a referendum on the president's agenda than about individual candidates and issues. President Obama, of course, ran 2 years ago on a platform of hope and change. But after his election, those terms turned out to be ill-defined for many. On the left, voters believe that the president's agenda didn't go far enough, but on the right, they feel the president wanted to transform politics as usual, not so much, but the nation itself.
And we're coordinating closely with the Haitian government, the United Nations, and other countries where we can.
President Barack Obama isn't running this year, but the midterm election is widely considered as a vote on the president's performance and on what he can accomplish in the next 2 years. His approval rating was 46% in mid-October, according to a Gallup poll, down from 62% when he took office. That's comparable to Jimmy Carter, Ronald Reagan, and Bill Clinton during midterm elections. Bill Clinton's campaign is famously attached to the phrase, "It's the economy, stupid." President Obama has had to answer for the lingering effects of the worst recession since the Great Depression, marked with high rates of unemployment. The White House says that the economy would have been far worse had President Obama not signed the $787 billion stimulus bill in February of last year. Many economists agree, but the president knows some Americans still need to be convinced.
I know there are people out there who are just hanging by a thread, people who are hurting. It's what keeps me up at night. It's what keeps me fighting. But I also know this. The biggest mistake we could make right now, Ohio, is to go back to the very same policies that caused all this hurt in the first place.
President Obama has managed to get some key legislation passed, including the historic health care reform bill in March. He also helped push through a financial reform bill. The president has carried out his campaign promise to reduce the number of combat troops in Iraq. But he sent an additional 300,000 troops to Afghanistan with an exit plan set for the middle of next year. He nominated 2 sitting Supreme Court justices, Sonia Sotomayor and Elena Kagan. And for the first time in history, there are now 3 women sitting on the bench at the nation's highest court. And then there's his being awarded with the Nobel Peace Prize. President Obama has made little progress on some election promises, such as passing laws limiting emissions and immigration reform. But observers think the environment, along with education and deficit reduction, could be major items on the president's agenda during the second half of his term. The president will be working with a slightly different cabinet and group of staffers than he began with. And if Republicans win a majority in Congress, the president may have to move closer to the center. And if Republicans fail to respond, President Obama can play it any way he likes when his name is on the ballot in 2012. For EBRU News, I'm Franz Jean-Louis.
Well, President Obama isn't the only one bearing the brunt of the backlash this election season. Congresswoman Nancy Pelosi, who led the Democrats to the majority 4 years ago and was elected as the first female Speaker of the House, has seen her star power fade as well. In a Gallup poll taken just days before Election Day, Speaker Pelosi's unfavorability rating was at an all-time high of 58% among American voters. And she's also been rapidly losing support among those within her own party. More than a dozen Democratic House incumbents and a handful of candidates seeking election to Congress for the first time have said they won't commit to voting for her as Speaker. Experts say Pelosi's problems, like President Obama, are directly tied to what many Americans perceive as Congress's inability to revive the ailing U.S. economy, despite having helped shepherd an $814 billion economic stimulus package through Congress. The big questions now, will Pelosi be given the reins if her party is able to retain the House? If the Democrats should end up in the minority, will she fight for a leadership position or simply take the path of many of her predecessors and choose to retire?
In a lame duck sense.